Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to an all-new reaction and review. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be checking out a movie from 1979, and that movie is Escape from Alcatraz. It is the first Clint Eastwood film in our series of reviews. It was also it's actually the team effort of both of Clint Eastwood and Don Siegel, in what is actually their fifth film as of, in terms of like their working relationship, I suppose. I would have to check, because at some point I would love nothing more than to do Dirty Harry, but I would have to check whether or not that was the first one, because I believe Dirty Harry came out in 1971, I believe, and I don't know what else to say about this. Just I was rummaging through like a game shop. It was basically like a second-hand entertainment store, and I just picked it up, and I've had it for like maybe about a year, and based on the J. Campbell Bruce novel, not bad, and I think it's just time to just check this out. So what else can you do? I mean, 1979, eh? Well, it's not even particularly very long of a film. It's like about let's see, it's about like just under an hour and 3/4, so who knows? I mean, if it's meant to be like a team effort between these two guys, I'm pretty sure it's meant to be like an action affair, or goodness knows what. I mean, again, I wonder if this is like before, when Clint Eastwood went all $1 Million Baby and kind of depressing on all of us, so you can't be too certain about these things. But I'm curious. I'm very, very curious and looking forward to this. So, with all that being said and done, because I have no idea what, aside from the title of the movie, I'm going to assume it's got something to do with an orgy affair at a bakery. Yeah, exactly. That's what it's going to be about. So, because nothing says, flour getting underneath your armpits while, you're trying to, give a boob job, compared to calling it the title of a maximum security correctional facility. And with all that being said and done, I had nowhere to go with that joke. Sorry about that. We are going to get involved right now. So, it's time to kick back, relax, and check out Escape from Alcatraz. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was Escape from Alcatraz. Let me just pause that for the moment, because it's kind of worth talking a little bit how this movie ends before we can get started. So, here was the... I'll just try and find it. It's like one... It reads with this text on the screen, which almost kind of looks something out of Dragnet. A massive search was conducted for Frank Morris, John and Clarence Anglin. Law enforcement agencies were certain they would find the bodies. They never did. Alcatraz was closed less than a year later. I don't want to necessarily say I think that maybe also where the book ends as well, because it's a little bit of an anti-ending in a sense that that we never knew what happened to John, Clarence or Frank. But I think in the long run, it's sort of... maybe they just ran out of places to try and bust out of, so they're just out there, and all credit to them, because I gotta tell you what, the warden in this movie, I'm gonna play this music a little bit, because I kind of wanted to lead into the first point. Just a little bit more, just in case. Okay, so maybe that's the first part I kind of want to talk about the movie, because the music is... I don't even really want to call it music in a sense. It's very eerie. It kind of sounds like very tiny hood echoes in a cave, mixed with the marching, like drum rolling, the sound of marching boots. It's kind of interesting how the way they went about doing that, because from like the first, there's like 4 whole minutes before the first line of dialogue is spoken, and everything is very silent. It's all slow motions as we watch Clint Eastwood's character Frank Morris being transported from San Francisco all the way to Alcatraz Island. He's got police on this boat. He's surrounded. He's handcuffed a lot of times, and for the most part, Frank kind of just looks around almost as confused as we are, because, well, I don't think they ever revealed exactly what happened, what he did to... I think it was like he tried to break out of a jail in Atlanta, and then they shipped him off to Alcatraz. And that's kind of really the majority of the backstory we get of Frank. They tell it, he says he doesn't have any family, and for the most part, that's kind of like where it ends as far as like what we know about Frank. All he's concerned about is just, is it possible to get out of this place? And I've got to say, first of all, ladies and gentlemen, from my understanding about how US prisons work, the first rule is, apparently from what I've been told, is that you don't ever smile in prison. Because if you smile, it gives away the idea that you like somebody. And sometimes it's... I'm going to say this is probably the case for almost all prisons, is that you don't want people to like you. That it means that it can immediately turn people the wrong way. But what's quite fascinating, looking at Escape from Alcatraz, is that Frank makes friends almost immediately with Charlie Butts, with English, this guy who got 2 99-year sentences back-to-back for murdering 2 white people, and he says it's just the natural order of things if you're black. And I gotta say, I've sent 2 99-year sentences for... I know, and it'll be interesting to work out exactly, maybe from doing some research as to whether or not cases have improved, because murdering 2 people is inherently wrong in itself, but but what it's very, but the way the movie is played, like there's this brute who obviously loves to just fuck anyone who he comes across. Wolf, he's called, and at several points he's just straight up tries to murder Frank in this movie, whether it's trying to, I don't know, rape him in the shower. Like the shower sequence, like 10 minutes into the film, there was at least, like, surrounded by at least 8 guards watching over the entire, like, shower block. And I find it very strange that, well, they would just watch this as Frank basically beat the hell out of Wolf and shoved soap into his mouth. And then a little bit later on, Wolf comes in with a knife, and he makes a full-spirited attempt to murder Frank in a courtyard, and both of them are thrown into the D blocks, which is basically just being put in darkness for basically a few days. And exactly what Frank does to deserve that is beyond my guess. Apart of, I don't understand why Frank got in. I just suppose it's just having anything to do with the incident is warranted enough. And there's this one scene where just he's sitting trying to conceal his eyes because trapped in darkness for days. I'm assuming that's, you're gonna, like, obviously be a little bit, repelled to the light. And this guard just comes in and just sprays Frank for like a good 30 seconds and then leaves. It's interesting as well that the different temerities between the guards, some of them are actually quite on good terms with the prisoners, even though they have their duties to carry out. The warden, however, it's kind of obvious that from our perspective we're supposed to root for guys like Frank, John, Charlie, English, and also what was it called, Liptus, this guy who says he gets blue when he's sad and red when he's angry, and he carries this little pet mouse basically throughout the film. It's just about the only room for company he has, and it's But then there's, oh my god, like there's this one character called Duck, who has this great fondness for painting, and I know it's fine, well, not unheard of for many inmates, so like in prisons, to take up those sort of recreational hobbies, whether it's like music or painting or anything like that. As soon as the warden finds all the paintings that Duck has made in his cell, he orders for all of his work to be confiscated, and when this hurts Duck so much that he gets they go into a workshop and he cuts almost 3 of his fingers off with using a hatchet axe, and there's no other way to put this. You kind of just want, at this point, as opposed to escaping, you want Frank, John, and Clarence to just take out the warden, or in many ways just kind of like embarrass him, which is what happened pretty much at the end of the movie when the warden gets a phone call saying he's needed in Washington. That was a very, again, it's a little bit anticlimactic, but it kind of is an ending, because I'm not entirely sure whether you could contrive anything else from an ending than that. The cinematography is really, really decent. It's shot okay, now let me just to sort of like not so much summarize, but I'm going to make a very general point about this movie, and it's something that is going to be, if you're not really a fan of this sort of detail that I'm going to give away, then you may want to like stop listening. Is that you have to watch this movie in the dark, because there are certain strengths to this movie. Is that the dialogue is kind of subtle and really, really short, and it's good because there is a bit of talk in it, but it's never shouted at. Everything is kind of soft, and it makes the pace, it's got good pacing. That's the point. That's what I was trying to look for. Everything is well paced, because there were just certain scenes which just serve their purpose and just kind of highlight the reality of the enormity of trying to break out of Alcatraz. And that's why I kind of recommend to watch this in the dark, because the biggest strength to this movie is during the sequences when Frank, John, Clarence, Charlie all attempt to break out of Alcatraz. You have to like just keep the lights off, because the biggest thing it reminded me of was The Great Escape. In fact, the only difference between The Great Escape and Escape from Alcatraz is that The Great Escape is, I'd say, technically, well, a lot better, because there's a lot more action. Steve McQueen. There's a lot of things to like, even though obviously it's not 100% accurate to what happened. But in terms of Alcatraz has this, it builds up tension really well, because you feel as if like in the next moment somebody is going to get caught, and they're going to be thrown into D block again and possibly maybe get murdered by Wolf. There's a lot of moments in this movie where you almost think that it's not going to work and everybody's going to fall in it. And then there were other times in this movie where they're just like, I don't know, doing a recreational task or building furniture or doing stuff like that. Everything is just kind of, they're just trying to get on with it as best they can and play your best sort of poker face. And that's like about halfway into the movie is when they start to do the breaking out. But in the first half, it introduces the characters really nicely. It introduces us to the world of Alcatraz, and that Frank, for the most part, just kind of plays everything very cool, as Clint Eastwood has always kind of done in his career. And with that being all said and done, I'm kind of glad it ended the way it did, because even though probably it's likely still Frank Morris, John and Clarence Anglers are probably not out there any longer, it's comforting in the knowledge that, well, even though Charlie was supposed to have escaped in this as well, he just decided to like stay behind and just because he couldn't like leap up to the bars to like climb out onto the roof. But it's I think I could just I recommended like watching it once and kind of just getting an idea of of the importance of things being quiet. So purely sort of like watching Escape from Alcatraz as from a thriller perspective, it's got some tremendous advantages due to the low lighting, the cinematography, just how normal everything is. It seems, or they play it perfectly natural, and I suppose for an operation like this, you gotta have to like be as cool and on your toes as you can. And the ingenuity in how they managed to craft a way of crawling through these metal grates, creating new ones, making that paper mache head of Frank just as a substitute for those sort of things are really, really well just put together, because they eventually sort of like worked a way to con everyone. I mean, the guards maybe possibly not entirely the brightest, I would say, but when they caught things, they made sure people suffered, so they still had to keep on their toes and all that, and in the end, it worked out. It's interesting because it's both got this great style of just pay attention and you'll be on the edge of your seat because you don't know what's coming next. And then there's also the sense of, well, maybe what's technically wrong with this place, because aside from, bands like, Wolf and all that, everybody seems to like get along with each other and just realize that, well, they're all in the same boat. And so, yeah, I mean, maybe, again, I might think about maybe watching. It would have to be like a good couple of months if I wanted something a bit more suspenseful. I mean, technically, Great Escape, as I mentioned, is both suspenseful and then it goes to being an action film. I wonder what other really good, like, suspenseful films out there, because you could learn a lot from movies like Escape from Alcatraz. Like, pretty much the absence of music, the cinematography, the ingenuity, like building the ingenuity of these guys and just playing things naturally. That's what the biggest strength to this movie is that they're not just going to make a spectacle and they're not just going to do something elaborate and crazy like having, I don't know, Kick-Ass fly nearly 100 feet off the ground with a jetpack and start murdering the whole dozen people. There's a lot more subtlety to this movie and it works as intended. So anyway, that, ladies and gentlemen, was my review of the movie Escape from Alcatraz. Please make sure to leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section down below. Let me know what you guys thought of Escape from Alcatraz as well. Please also make sure to also like and subscribe to get daily notifications when my videos come out. And I hope to see all of you guys again in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye for now.